Again, infrared will help relieve chronic pain, improve circulation. It helps to relax and de-stress. We can prove that with heart rate variability. It improves metabolism, so that's improving um, uh, blood flow, of course, oxygenation, and getting your genetic information and nutrition to the body, but it also will burn calories. So if you go in sauna for, let's say, half hour, 45 minutes at the average temperature, you'll probably burn between 300 and 400 calories in the process. So it may not seem like a lot, but if you don't change your food intake or your dietary intake or your exercise, your activity level, and just did sauna every day, you probably would lose maybe 2 pounds, 2.5 pounds a month, which, it's something, right? Adds up, and it's a healthy decline in your body. Mostly visceral fat is the one that we focus on the most, but so weight loss is one. Hypothermia, raising your core temperature, that's the front line. That's what we call a false fever. So the frontline defense in your body's response against invaders like bacteria and viruses is to create a fever. So most bacteria and viruses can't live above 101 to 101.5 degrees Fahrenheit temperature, body core temperature. So if I could raise your core to 100, then I'm basically creating an immune response. There's going to be a natural die-off of viruses and bacteria. And the reason why we have a challenge with bacteria and viruses is that one of their main functions is to replicate. If they could replicate faster and use our body resources faster than we can knock them out, then they win and we get symptomatic. And so if we could raise your core temperature, slow down their replicating process, and support our immune system at the same time, which is all that infrared does, then we're kind of, attacking I can't even say the enemy, because bacteria and viruses, they're just natural. They're everywhere. They've been here since the beginning of time, right? So it's really the imbalance. Like infrared frequencies, sauna will help your body come back into balance. And that's the thing that's key about this part of the discussion. You mentioned earlier, Danielle, about just range of motion, like you get up and now there's less kinks. And, as an older person, I can say that doesn't take me less time to get out of bed, in the morning, but I do notice that when, doing sauna every day, that it does make a huge difference in my range of motion. My passion is riding bikes. So, I generally try to ride 10 miles a day. And so my recovery time and my ability for my body to bounce back and range of motion, this is something I'm very conscious of. And I've noticed that there's been a huge difference once you start doing sauna regularly, that this stuff just comes back to you,
Yeah.
So
another ad, which I initially started using sauna and prescribing sauna. And in my world, it was just to help keep things open and moving, right? And like, I didn't know about a whole bunch of these benefits, and now I do. But for those of us that have had either saline or silicone implants, right? We have silicone in our body. And what we know from some of the studies, like especially Dr. Capel and Dr. Dietrich's work on the autopsy, is we know that, and now Dr. B's work and just looking at silicone migration, even in a non-ruptured implant, we have silicone in our body and we know that it migrates, right? And we know that we found, I think it was a fairly high percentage in the autopsy report by Dr. Capel, in the liver and in the GI tract, right? And so
sure.
if it's gotten from here to there, and I know that it's working its way out either through the liver and the fecal matter or kidneys and urine, right? So to keep things moving, to keep things in able to have your drainage pathways all open from sweat to breath through urine, through fecal, is all important. And I think sauna plays a big role for us. In all of things you've said, but especially for just keeping that silicone moving.
Oh, totally. And, there's another concept which I really talk more about with heavy metals, but it does apply to silicone, because what happens in the body with heavy metals in particular, the body has a charge, like we talked about polarity, right? And so a metal has a charge and the body tissue has a charge. And that's why heavy metals and metals are hard to get out. But silicone's the same way in some respects, that it starts to, it sticks. It is actually a bond between the silicone and the tissue. And so how do you break that bond?
Exactly.
Well,
That's a good question.
well, we have the answer. And the answer is the vibration, the bioresonance of the infrared. It actually breaks those covalent bonds. And so what happens then is that you've got the metal, you know, and or in this case the silicone, then cascades into your bloodstream or your serum, and the body's looking to get it out. That's why you're experiencing challenges with, you know, the filtering organs, pancreas, liver, kidneys, large intestine. Breathing is a way to come out. Lymphatic drainage, bile. These are all your lymphatic, all of your detox pathways.
Yeah, it's your whole drainage pathway.
Yeah, and we look to clear those. Those need to be cleared and opened. It's another, next to polarity. That's the next thing on my list. So absent polarity, which was always there for me, but it just didn't have my sequencing was different. Now I'm looking at that first, because I know if I charge your body up, that you're going to be able to fight a better fight. So that's why I think that's important. But next to that, detox, you're getting your detox pathways. If you don't have a good sewage system set up, and we start dumping sewage into your sewage system, and you don't have ways to get it out, then we're not helping. We actually wind up making it a little bit more toxic. And so we like to use binders, and that's a key part of our discussion and our protocols, because binder is like a little sponge. So we're going to get to that.
Oh, sorry. We'll also have Dr. J from Cellcore talk about drainage pathways and
Perfect.
How they how to use some of their products for, you know, adding value with the energy coupled with sauna, and so we can get the biggest bang for our time and healing. But it's quite. Yes, please go on. I didn't mean to.
Well, I'm glad he's joining, because he's so knowledgeable, and we helped him with, you know, like when he was healing his wife Heather, and that got him on the whole Lyme thing. We were very involved with him then, and he's humbly, he calls me the Steve Jobs of infrared. Like, he thinks that, you know, like, well, we've been around, we know each other for close to 17 years, so
it's a brilliant pair for sure. Like, I mean, just even just the linear engineering of how you help that cell, and it is all about energy, but like legit energy, not just woo energy, and how do you get those electrons, and how do you move that hydrogen, oxygen, carbon. And oddly enough, where does silicone sit? Right underneath carbon on the periodic table. And what does it bond to? When, you know, the extractables in these implants are all different molecular weighted silicones. They're volatiles as well as gas, and they're sometimes cross-linked with some metals like tin and platinum, right? So we've got this conversation is just the foundation of it all, but this is an anchor for our healing for sure.
Totally. And so just from the dynamic, we've got these exogenous chemicals and substances in our body that we're trying to get out. The first challenge is that they actually stick to parts of the body parts and so forth, you know? So how do we unstick them? How do we break those bonds? The wavelengths, that same wavelength, that same frequency, that same resonance actually breaks those bonds. We've seen it with the metals, and the same would apply to silicone and some other chemical and plastics and things that the body likes to hold on to. And so besides lining our tissues and our GI tract, we're not just talking about a lining, we're talking about the materials actually bonding in a way that you just can't kind of scrape loose with by adding more roughage into your diet, things like that in terms of your GI tract. And that's where I think we, and infrared in general, not just Therasage infrared, but I'm saying the infrared spectrum or using sunlight as a tool to break those bonds is really important. Now that we've broken the bond and we separate the silicone and or the metal from the tissue, we have to do something with the substrate. And that's where I love using cell core binders. we've used other binders in the past, but
For
frankly,
sure.
Dr. J's work at Cellcore and microbe formulas, they're brilliant.
Well,
It's
and when you look at the combination of the humeric, but mostly I always say it wrong, the fulvic acid, I think that
Yeah.
we'll find that it's the fulvic acid that really helps bind with the silicone, or at least a good bit of the silicone in our systems to help
Right.
get it out. And I
Right.
don't know, not all their products has the fulvic in it, but when we go through the protocol and drainage pathways, and anyway, I'm digressing. I'm just excited about the technology.
No, and it should be. And what's special about Dr. J and Cellcore is they use their secret sauce, which I'm sure he'll go into at depth, but he uses a activated charged carbon particle. So back to polarity and charge, right? When you have a supplement that has the charge of the earth and the body is missing the earth charge, and you bring that supplement in, it's going to bond and potentiate and actually absorb into the tissues and into the cell on a much, much higher level. And so that's why I love his stuff, because we've had many, and there are other supplements on the market that do similar things, but his is the best, but
Well,
that we've ever tested.
and then
So
I do think when you add, now that I know how sauna works, you add this energy with that energy. I just think it what's the word? Synergistic.
right, that's it. But these are my hacks. So we're going to get into that, and we're going to breeze through the hacks as quick as we can. So we will drive your pH to be more alkaline, which is important because most systemic diseases, I know that we're very specific about, about explants, but just I'm talking about full body health. If we can have your body pH to be a little bit more alkaline, that's going to be better for you, because most systemic diseases aspire in acidic environments. And so that's something to be mindful of. So I think we covered most of the guys on here. This is the short list, by the way. But I just needed for people to understand mostly that, yes, we're harnessing sunlight, but we're using just a tool that nature has given us to help ourselves. Okay, so hack your way back to health. The order and the dosing is everything, right? So before I kind of get into all the hacks, one hack that I think people should be a little bit more mindful of or would consider is just creating a safe place, like a healthy home. And I like that to be sort of home-based. I'm being a little corny here, but having a healthy home, like a place where, you're free of EMF and ELF, where you're free of, blue light, where you're free of some of the chemicals that are really used in household, just household use, that aren't necessarily good for us, that our body absorbs and holds on to. The fluorides and the chlorine that's in our water systems, municipal water systems, these are all things we have control over. And so if we create a healthy home, then at least they're 8 hours, 10 hours out of the day, whatever it is, if we're not in confinement of sort, that we have a place where we can actually kind of regenerate, And so I just put a quick list of the things that you can do in your home to make your home healthy, or at least to be conscious of. So for anybody that wants to see the slide, and I'll make this slideshow available for you so that you can post the slides if you want, or whatever, however you want to utilize it, but certainly from here. So we can go through all this, but there are, on the very last one here, building biologists that can come in and actually test your house. You can hire them and they can say, okay, we have a mold challenge. We've got EMF challenges here. We can fix this, we can fix that. But I do think that, that having a healthy home or a safe place is an important thing. Okay, so this is probably the slide you were talking about the other day, right? And it's probably overwhelming. And now I look at it, I'm going, oh my God, I can't believe there's so many things. But these are the stacks that we do. And I had this concept about maybe 8 years ago, that if the sauna was the hub of a wagon wheel and the spokes of the wagon wheel were different kinds of interventions, modalities, or things we could stack, or things, other kinds of therapies we can bring into that sauna environment, then I'm going to not only get you, well, you're there in the sauna for, let's say, 30 minutes. So what other things can I bring into that sauna experience within 30 minutes that's going to really knock the leather off the ball for you from a health perspective, right? So where do we start here? So we talked about hydration. It's really important to be hydrated. So in our sauna protocol, we drink 8 to 10 ounces of water before the sauna. We add the binder into the sauna, into that water. So now we have the binder present, the appropriate binder present. So again, Dr. Davidson, Dr. J is going to go into, he has a full array of binders, which is marvelous, because if you're going after heavy metals, if you're going after radiation, if you're going after, household chemicals, he can offer you a menu to choose from. And that's very, very significant and very different than other companies, compounders out there. So hydration is not just important for explants, but for all of us. And to drink water that's bioavailable, structured water. Certainly the sauna is going to structure the water in you, but if you can get structured water or good filtered water to improve that whole part of your hydration piece, that's going to make a big difference in your overall outcome and certainly how you feel and the way your body expresses. So look for filtered, structured, and energized. We actually look to energize the water, which is something called Vortex, which we can talk about on our next episode together. We're probably on part 2 of this interview right now, aren't we?
It's all good though. Yeah, I would love to talk about a little bit, because for my clients, when I say, hey, let's do sauna, and then I have these lifestyle modifications and things like that, like you can do everything in one place, right? You can have your mindfulness in the sauna. For me, I actually don't sit outside of it. I sit inside, right? And but I bring my water, like you said, and I hydrate, and it's mineralized, and it also has electrolytes in it. But I love, maybe not right away for everybody, but I love the idea of boosting nitric oxide or using niacin, and there's different things I might do per client on their basis, right? But ozone is another. I mean, we could do a whole other hour on even just ozone therapy.
Right. And again, it's back to stacking, right? Because see, again, the hub of the wagon wheel. Sauna, the infrared frequencies are going to create that systematic turn on. It's going to turn on your lymphatic system. It's going to turn on your detox pathways. It's going to turn on your circulation, oxygenation. These are all the things. It's not just about detox. It's about getting a unified, systematic approach so that everything is working for you, not just that one system per se. And so, and these are the things that, guided meditation, being mindful is super important, but why not get introspective while you're in your sauna that's your space, right? Phones aren't ringing like I do mine at 4:35 in the morning when the world hasn't even opened up yet, woken up yet. And so I'm able to actually stay focused, and usually it takes me about an hour just to ask forgiveness or I think about what I'm grateful for and set my intentions. But so that's a big part of it, right? You can manage that as well. Nitric oxide, in our version of the Thera 360 Plus, we actually have red light panels and near frequencies in the front of the sauna that produce nitric oxide. And so nitric oxide creates vasodilation, also triggers your blood to grab more oxygen. That's why when we stack, we have the light there already. You can supplement with nitric oxide if you're not getting enough, so you can do that. And then we just add ozone or oxygen into the tent. So now we've primed your body and your blood to grab more oxygen. So we just bring a supplemental oxygen into the tent, and your skin just soaks that in like as a breathing organ. And so now we're giving the body what it's deficient, what it needs, and it takes it in naturally. And guess what else? So now these microbes, the parasites, the mold, the Lyme and co-infections, all of these bacteria, any of the imbalances in your terrain, those organisms are all anaerobics. They don't like oxygen. And so just by doing a nitric oxide stack and bringing ozone into the sauna, you're now rebalancing your terrain just by sitting in there naturally for a half hour sweating, dreaming about all the things in your life and all the wonderful things that you're going to be when you come out of sauna and you're going to experience that day. So we use the light in our sauna, but we also supplement with nitric oxide with a lozenge and a serum. That's Dr. Nathan's work. Like you do, we remineralize. When you sweat, you also sweat out minerals and electrolytes, so you need to put that stuff back in. The binders are over here, and we've got a series. They're basically two classes: a big sponge, little sponge, macro binder, and nano binder. So the macro is generally a charcoal or a bentonite clay, and that grabs environmental toxins, everything we get in the body through air, water, and food. Then there's the nano binders that gets biofilms, what I call the silt. So it's all the small toxins that basically you can stir up but are hard to get out, like the heavy metals, and certainly now in this case, silicone. And so it's, there's no doubt in my mind, just sauna and binder alone is going to get, like 90% of the population in a much, much, much better position from a health standpoint.
Drainage pathways, like if there's any take home for this summit, free silicone is disadvantageous, aka bad, right? Opening up all your drainage pathways, however you do that, right? Maybe not however, the thoughts just came into my mind about that, right? But in just getting it out, releasing from there's and I find that drainage pathways and sauna, the release is I don't know if I can, maybe we'll see in the HOPE protocol, like how fast this can occur for some, but I do think it's faster with sauna, which I used to think was just the heat shock stuff, right? It used to be like heat, bind, release, and now it's so much more. Thank you for all of this, for sure.
Yeah, no, this is good. And it's, it's all a journey. And even in my own research and so forth, it's like I realized early in the game that as much as I know and as far as advanced as we are, we're just touching the surface on the things that we need to learn and these applications, like how important they are. So it's very exciting, and it certainly keeps me very engaged, and I'm excited to show you the community, the new things that we're coming up in the next 18 months. Or it's really great stuff.
Can you show us now?
Well, I can talk about it.
Okay.
But,
just asking for a friend.
No,
okay.
we can talk about it, but because of certain patenting and there's some rules around that stuff, I can't dive too deep into it because then it becomes public knowledge and it's no longer mine anymore.
Yeah, but we can also honor that and wait and just have you back on.
Yeah, well, no, I hope so. That'll be great. Okay, so let's keep going around our stacking list here, or hacking list. So binders are certainly key. And that's, again, we stir it up and then we bind it up and then we use our body systems to get it out. And then one of the things that gets in the way is EMF, that's electromagnetic fields. So that would be 5G, the networks, all that. ELF, which is extreme low frequencies, that's dirty electricity. So these are exogenous or man-made frequencies that, just like a pharmaceutical under a microscope looks just like a natural organic compound, but yet it responds differently with the body because it lacks those energetics. Same thing with frequencies and energy medicine. When it's a natural frequency like sunlight or sound, right, then the body understands that and interprets it and digests it and uses it in a way that's healthy for vitality. But then we've got 5G, and what people don't realize is that the same cell towers that are up there carrying 3G, 4G, and 5G are also right now carrying 7G and 10G frequencies, because our military and government are using those for communication on the same towers that we think are just for our cell purposes, cell towers. So these are networks that are going not just around the US, but this is a process that's happening globally. And we're just not meant to be bombarded with all these frequencies. In fact, Dr. Klinghardt did a blood study that is suggesting that actually these exogenous frequencies, EMF, actually energizes parasites. It energizes microbes and viruses and bacteria. So that means that they're pooping more. That's a toxic. They're using more of your life resources, right? And then they're doing what they're meant to do, is just propagate, regenerate, like replicate, right? That's their whole thing. They're like sharks. They're like perfect organisms, right? And they're meant to live in harmony in our bodies. It's just the disharmony that causes that dysbiosis, or the challenge that we have. And that's what I think is important to take home from here, is that if you use sauna regularly, it's going to actually over time rebalance your terrain. And I think that's super important. So then moving on to the stack list, we have aromatherapy. And aromatherapy, essential oils are essentially just extracts from plants and flowers. And so that's where all pharmaceuticals are derived from plants and flowers. So we can bring them right into our bodies through our skin by picking the proper aromatherapy or picking the right proper essential oil. Then using aromatherapy, getting a little sweat on. Now the skin is now a breathing organ, not just getting poisons out, but also bringing things directly into your bloodstream. And that's pretty amazing. We also make a technology that's called singlet oxygen energy, SOE, and it's basically rainforest air. So in the early part of the day, in the rainforest or in the plant world, plant kingdom, the individual singlet water droplets form on the leaves. Then the sun rises, it actually restructures that singlet or that single water molecule, which combines with oxygen, creating an SOE, which is a very unstable molecule, but it's the precursor to photosynthesis. It's the way that plants actually digest sun energy into plant energy, okay? Now, then the cow comes along, or the animal comes along and eats the plant. So they absorb that plant energy, which is sun energy, and now they get animal energy. And then if we're animal eaters, we eat the animal, so we get sun energy that way. If we're plant eaters, then we get sun energy that way, or we get it directly by being in the sun. But the sun itself is one of the fundamental ways that we get energized, or we actually replenish our photons. So we made an aromatherapy module that we put in the sauna so that you can pick your essential oil and use that as a medicine to get into your bloodstream and affect your body. And singlet oxygen energy is a breathing device. Again, you use that in the sauna to breathe in this energized air which is really what the rainforest air is, to restructure the water in us, help with neurological challenges, and help with all breathing challenges. So that's a super cool stack that we make with the sauna. We also use natural gemstones like rose granite and natural jade stone. We use shungite, different earth elements that have energies and frequencies, and we infuse those into our materials so that when you're in that sauna, you're not just getting infrared, but you're getting all these other great frequencies that are helpful. We mentioned ozone earlier, so that's super cool. We use natural organic castor oil packs. Do you guys use that stuff? You use that in therapy?
I haven't done it in the sauna, but yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so that's an amazing stack for cleansing your liver, particularly. It's non-invasive. Basically, what we do is you cut out a 4-inch by 4-inch patch of organic felt material, and you saturate that with organic castor oil. Then you warm up the area of your body that you want to put the patch on. And then you put the patch on it, you put some parchment paper over that, and then you put the infrared source right on top of that. And the infrared frequencies actually pulse and push. They drive the castor oil through your skin right into your liver, and it causes a beautiful liver cleanse, non-invasive liver cleanse. It's marvelous for organ cleansing. So I can send you all these protocols. We've developed them all, and
I've used it with your heating pad. Maybe I'll
yeah,
try it
yeah.
in the sauna itself.
Well, the sauna is really good. What Dr. Marisol, she makes, she calls herself the Queen of Thrones, I think, because she's out of Canada. She's also really great with, she's an expert at castor packing. So she makes great castor oil. We use the initial protocol is actually with our healing pad, like you mentioned. So then you put the healing pad on, but you can use it in the sauna as well. It's really good. So she makes some pretty good stuff. And then we use mud packing, and that's what I made a reference earlier to fix scar tissue and interference fields. We actually use bentonite clay mud packing. Again, we use the infrared to warm up the area where the interference field is, where the scar is. And then we put the clay on. I have the formula for that. And then you put the infrared to dry the clay, and that will actually pull all the poisons out and rebalance that energy field, rekindle that field. So these are just some of the world that I live in, so you get a feel for it. How you introduce, we never really kind of throw you into the deep end of the pool, so I wouldn't have you do sauna and then do ozone and mud packing and all at once. We would do one at a time, introduce them to the patient or the individual based on the way they're presenting themselves and what's the proper protocol, and then we'd see how the body responds, and then advance the protocol accordingly.
And you
Okay.
you guys actually have a good support system should anyone purchase a Therasage unit.
Yeah, we have a free health coaching service. So anything you buy from Therasage, and even if you don't buy it, although my team will hate that I say this now, but if you need our help, just call our customer service. Just let them know that have heard of us through your symposium and your network, and we'll support your community any way we can, whether they have our devices or not. It's about community and healing. It's not about sales and devices, so just have them tune in. They can go on our website, make an appointment, and talk to one of my team. I'm in charge of that area of our research development, health applications. So all that is part of my area. So yeah, we're happy to talk to people, show them how to use our devices to get the best result, and help them along with you. We coordinate with the team of practitioners. So we're just one little piece of it. Yeah. So these are just some of the breakouts now of what the prior screen you saw, and some of the hacks that I like that are associated with each one of these little areas. So for sun energy, it's an important hack for people to know. So I've taken the approach of both UV spectrum and infrared spectrum, even though we're mostly specializing on the infrared side. The UV spectrum is super important. We're out of winter already, but if we were in the middle of winter or in the colder parts of the world, then people experience light deprivation, and that can be fixed with UV light. But we do work mostly in the infrared spectrums, as you know. So, and then blood oxygenation. So we touched on the nitric oxide piece. We make 2 ozone devices here. One that's a portable one. I can show you what that looks like. It's kind of the show and tell part. It's really small. It's about the size of my hand, which is kind of small anyway, but a little thicker than like a cell phone. And what I did was I developed a specialized light that sits right here, and then there's a little fan that brings the oxygen, which is O2, through the fan, sucks it in, it brings it over the light. The light fractures the O2 into unstable O1s, and when it comes out the front, they marry up with an O2 that's sitting out here. That's the air we breathe. And so that creates an O3. And even though ozone, which is defined as O3, 3 oxygens, it's still unstable in our atmosphere. And so we can suck that extra oxygen into our body through various ways. Sauna is one of them, but this is the transport system we use. When it's outside the sauna, it's great for disinfecting things that are in the air, like bacteria, viruses, or odors. When it's in the sauna, we're looking to just super oxygenate our blood. And so we stack ozone with nitric oxide that comes from our lights or from supplements like a lozenge. And then we bring ozone in to when we know that you need to boost the oxygenation in your blood. Great therapy, amazing what it does to the body. And you don't do this right away. First, you start very, very basic, see how sauna works for you, get your cell body sweating, open up your detox pathways. And then we start introducing, because ozone alone will cause a die-off if you have a high population of microbes and you don't have those detox pathways set up. So now we're creating a die-off with nowhere to go, right?
Drainage,
so that
drainage.
Won't make you feel good. That's right. So oxygen is a big, big part of anti-aging and also the part of primal healing. And so we bring it in through ozone, we bring it in through the Thera, which is the SEO technology, that rainforest technology breathing. We also bring it through a bubbler that we make, which is an ozone device that has a hose that you can put a air stone on that you can bubble into your bath water, into your sink water to disinfect all of your foods, which we do every day here. And you can super oxygenate your bath water. That's another way to get oxygen into your bloodstream besides a device like this. So other ways are hyperbaric, of course. The ones that are popular are the personal units now that have become way more affordable. But that's forcing oxygen through your skin into your bloodstream. So there would be a good stack, like a nitric oxide lozenge and doing hyperbaric, for instance. That would be really good. Or nitric oxide and doing an ozone bath, or drinking ozonated water or ozonated suppositories. Those are really super cool, especially if you have a lower GI challenge. I see you smiling. Do you use those or no?
I don't know that in my head, it just made me smile because I don't know that would be super cool to have a
suppositories.
Yeah, I've done insufflation before, and ozone insufflation. That was remarkable.
Yeah, it really is. These are just all the ways to get extra oxygen into your bloodstream. But so if the end game is to do that, this is just some of the easy hacks, affordable hacks. We can do this stuff at home. And if we know what the end game is, we know we're looking to try to get the oxygen level up in our bloodstream. And you can do that with an oximeter. You can just put that, people that are testing low, even the COVID challenges with oxygen, holding onto oxygen, you can test that. Then you can see just by taking a little supplement and bringing some ozone into the room, boom, it can go from 90% to 98% in minutes. That's how quickly the body responds to this. So it's truly amazing. Okay, we'll keep going. So this is the rainforest air that I was mentioning, singlet oxygen energy. It's really very specialized device. It does help support mitochondria health and cell energy, and it does detoxify. But really what we're doing is the same thing we talked about earlier. We're taking light energy and now we're capturing it in a water molecule that you're basically breathing in through this device that we've developed. So it's kind of cool. Other things you can do on oxygen are some of the Wim Hof and the breathing techniques like Butaki. These are really great for doing a few things, getting more oxygen to your blood, but also your autonomic nervous system, calming you down.
Agreed.
And what are we doing now? We're talking 2 to 4 minutes. These oxygen or these breathing exercises are 2 to 4 minutes, and you can do it anywhere, on a train when you're commuting into Manhattan, or if that's what you do, or just, kind of break up that your day when you're feeling like a little overstressed for whatever the family's getting to you. Just, check out for a few minutes, just learn this simple breathing technique. You can go on Google or on YouTube and see this stuff. It's free, and just start integrating it into your life. So these are things we all can do. And that's what today is about, learning the things we can do, right?
Yep.
All right, so water is important, right? So good structured water, that's, these are the different ways that there are systems out there. We make 2 systems ourselves, but the one that's really popular here is the pitcher, because it's it's portable. It's like a little Brita setup. And basically I travel with it. When I get to hotels or whatever I'm doing, I take bottled water and I dump that into this little pitcher. And then I drink out of that, and it's been restructured, it's been rebalanced, it's energized, it's mineralized, and it's filtered. And so I usually use that as my last, whatever other systems I have. It could be RO, it could be distilled. I take that water, dump it into the pitcher, drink out of that, and it works great. So yeah, so water is a big part of it. And I suggest everybody, if they could do things that can help get filtered water into their bodies, that'd be great. Negative ions, that's a force of nature. That's again, an ion donor. So what is a negative ion? Well, Terry, let me ask you a question. Do you sing in the shower?
No.
Okay. Or you just don't want to admit it?
No. I don't have a good voice, so I stay very quiet with singing.
Okay. How about you, Danielle? Do you ever sing in the shower?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Well, do you want to know the physiological reason why you sing in the shower?
Yes.
Okay, so going back to our initial premise, which is that basically our bodies are deprived of negative ions, or we're not grounded anymore. We're more positive than we are negative. So what happens in nature when running water moves over land like a waterfall, at the waterfront, when the wave hits the shore and the friction of the wave hitting the sand, it's releasing a negative ion, that energy. Or maybe you can, Terry, ever go outside after like a fresh rain and feel how heavy the air feels and how energized the air is, that feeling? That's a negative ion.
Okay.
Now, Danielle, when you're in the shower and the water's coming through that shower head, it's creating friction that's releasing negative ions into a really small little shower stall. So your body's deficient of negative ions. Now you're getting a whole abundance of them coming from the shower head or from the energy coming from in that shower. It's neutralizing your body. So now you're getting the negative charge that's neutralizing the positive charge your body has, which is creating a sense of euphoria or generally well-being, or let's say, to make it even simpler, Terry, it makes you feel happy.
Yeah, for sure.
And generally when you're happy, that's a reason why you'd be singing. So
that's why you get the best ideas in the shower. I always get good ideas when I'm in the shower, always.
Okay. Yeah, actually, I'm pretty good about that too. I do a lot of my best thinking in the bathroom. So, so I totally get what you mean. Yeah, so that's the physiological reason. And this is something that's a force of nature. And actually, I did a longevity study about 12 years ago. I was invited by a doctor and an engineer in China, and we went to what's called a blue zone. Blue zones are where people live to greater than 100 years of age on average. So the average age of this village in China was 103 years old. I met somebody that was 108 years old, and she wasn't what you could imagine. She was very vibrant, very lucid, didn't run marathons, but she played mahjong. She was completely on her game. And she also like worked with her hands, like in the garden, bonsai trees and things like that. And I thought to myself, well, we don't have the same playbook here in the US. We get to be 100, we're kind of, or maybe even 80, or maybe even 60, or maybe even 50, right? These days, like people they just get ill and they get kind of sucked into a malaise. And it's a whole different model. It's not a vibrant model, right? And so I thought, wow, like what is the magic about this place that people live the longest, right? And so I went on this journey. It was 22 hours on a bus. I would probably still hold the record of the only male Caucasian ever to go to this part of the world. And I was on this bus with 25 foreigners, like Asian speaking scientists and doctors. And I had an interpreter, and I brought some scientific equipment with me. And what I did recognize was that the amount of negative ions that came from this village were 20,000 times greater than the normal air. And the reason that I discovered that this was happening there, by the way, that's the equivalent of energy that comes off Niagara Falls. That's to give you, for everybody listening, that's the intensity of the vibration or the energy that was in this village. But there wasn't any running water. There was no waterfall. So what was making that happen? And what I discovered was that the village was built on a mound of blood orange tourmaline stone. And this tourmaline stone generates negative ion energy naturally. So I said, oh my God, like this is like the answer for longevity. Why people, if you're missing negative ions and you have a stone that looks innocent in the ground, but is generating negative ions, just surround yourself with these stones. So of course, they're in my sauna and they're in my material in my sauna because from this particular part of the world. So part of a discovery that we discovered, but really it's just about nature, bringing nature, incorporating nature into our lives when we can't get it anymore because we're not walking the beach and we're not standing aside Niagara Falls, getting all that energy into our bodies. And if we were just visiting it. We weren't living it. Yeah. So how do we get it around us so that it maintains that balance as the way nature intended us? And so here are some of the hacks. Like you can get a sauna, of course, you can get a grounding mat. You can do something like kick off your shoes, Terry, and just go outside and dance in the grass or in the sand or hug an oak tree or a palm tree or whatever kind of tree is close to you guys. So the other fun ways are like, do you guys have animals? Like, do you have pets like dogs and cats, right? Well, you let them out and they're getting all the sun energy and then they jump into your arms, right? And so they're not just transferring their love to you, they're giving you that energy, they're giving you life force. They're transferring that energy into you. Because when they've gotten too much sunlight, too much of that energy, they let it go, just like we do. Well, when they're letting it go and they're jumping into your arms, where do you think that stuff is going? It's going into your body. So now you have a whole nother appreciation of why you have to just love your pet when you get home, and let them know how much they love you and all the abundance and stuff they give you. The other ways, of course, is like Himalayan salt lamps and things like that that generate negative ions. These are all hacks out there. They are not expensive. And there's a little hint here. Therasage earth frequency on body patches. That's the new technology that we're doing. So we're taking all of these frequencies that we're talking about and we're actually we're imprinting them onto mediums like little patches and little holograms that you can stick on your phone or stick on your body on certain meridian points and bring these energies that were deficient right to the area that needs love and attention. Wonderful. So yeah, it's kind of the newer stuff that we're doing. We think it's, we're I don't know if you've got pill fatigue, or maybe your patients do, but yeah. So really, when you take if you really kind of distill down the energies that are in these different supplements, you can take it in a pill form, or you can also have that energy on a patch form that either gets absorbed through your skin or just that frequency being on your body will absorb into your body, and that's going to give you a lot of health results, which we're proving now in all of our science that we're putting together in our IRBs and our studies that we're doing currently. So it's pretty exciting to see the results that we're getting. Okay, so negative ions helps with communication, mental clarity, sense of euphoria, well-being, causes Danielle to sing in the shower. We get better sleep at night. It also these energies will bind, they're good for cleansing air, because what happens is that they cause dust particles to bind together and then they get too heavy and so they just fall to the ground. So you can sweep them up or use a vacuum cleaner to get them out of your carpet. Okay, so harmonizing has to do with EMF, and so we learned how to remediate electromagnetic fields around 20 years ago. Or a little, maybe 17 or 18 years ago. It came to me in sort of a dream, because we make products that plug into walls or generate power from batteries. And any of those forms of energy, alternating current, will also generate an EMF, which we discovered to be not healthy for the body. So knowing that they're not healthy for the body, we figured out a way to remediate. But generally it's through shielding and blocking technology, and that's reactive, which means they come out with 5G networks and or 3G network, and we fix 3G and 4G, and then by the time we get it integrated into your home, then they've come out with 5G. So it's always reacting to the next technology, right? The next faster gaming. now that we discovered harmonizing. And harmonizing is unifying these frequencies, earth frequencies, and having them in a format, which is like on body patches or holograms, stickers you can put on your phone or on your devices. And these are generating frequencies themselves that neutralize the negative effects of EMF. And so in the energy medicine world, this is the next phase right here. And so we at Therasage, we harmonize, we shield, and we block all of our devices so that when you get our devices, you're getting pure infrared, full spectrum infrared, and not all the side effects of the electricity that we use to power that device that you're getting. Does that make sense to you?
It does.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so the primal healing. Nutrition is part of primal healing. And so if you have a choice and you can choose organic, go there. If you have a choice, choose non-GMO, right? We've taken, for people that have challenges with, and this, you might see this with your community, they have cognitive challenges, right? So ketogenic, paleo, and Mediterranean dietary approaches seem to work the best with cognitive or neurological related challenges. So these are ways that, dietary ways that we can direct people that stay, you know, in balance, but yet they can have a diet that also support vital health. And so nutrition is a big thing, and sauna will help with the uploading of nutrition, like we mentioned earlier, because it'll help potentiate the nutrition on a cell level, which is really the end game where we're going. Okay, so I mentioned aromatherapy, that basically is just natural plants and flowers. And so essential oil extracts we can diffuse into the sauna, breathe it in through our skin, get it right into, these are medicines going right into your bloodstream. We do make a diffuser. It kind of looks like this. So you can get a feel for the kinds of devices that we make. And you basically take the top off and you put your organic oil right in there. And then you hit a little button on the side, and then you put this into the base of the sauna. And now this essential oil is coming out. And so once you start sweating in the sauna, Danielle, your skin becomes a more active breathing organ. And so now we can introduce a diffuser. It's an atomizer type. So you put 100% of your organic oil in here. The other kinds of diffusers, they're called misters. So you, like a mister, like it creates a mist.
Yep.
And so there you're taking a beautiful organic oil and you're putting a drop of that into water. Even if it's distilled, it'll denature the energetics of that oil. And in this kind of format, where we're atomizing it, we're using 100% of the organic oil. So you're basically getting that into your body, and it's amazing how your body responds. So we make a few blends, mostly for people to try. People that are like aromatherapy, they usually like their own like sources for their oils. So there are some better brands than others, but we just direct people to get using stuff that's organic. And then we talked a lot about nitric oxide. So this is like real key. That the lozenge I keep making mention to is called NO, which is nitric oxide 2U is the brand. They also make a skin format called Numa, and there it's a serum. You mix it on your hand. It's got two different like things like cannules that you pump, 2 pumps, and you pump both solutions. You mix it on your hand, and then just put it on your skin, and it'll help with scar tissue or anything that's skin related in terms of bringing more oxygen to your skin for reviving. So that nitric oxide piece is really important. We did introduce a reflexology module recently. So if I use my hand, imagine this being your feet. There are different areas, zones on your hand and on your feet and in your ear that actually support different energetic systems in your body. And so acupuncture would be using a needle to open up an area. Acupressure is just putting pressure on these zones. And what we did was, and actually I have this right under my desk. So while I'm being interviewed, I'm actually rubbing my feet back and forth on this little reflexology piece. And so what that's doing is it's calming me down. It's bringing me into a parasympathetic state. And it's also triggering all of my reflexology points on the bottom of my feet as I'm talking. So it hasn't slowed me down at all. These are the binders we talk about. Now, there are different kinds. The macro binder would be activated charcoal and bentonite, chlorella, spirulina, algae. The nanos are generally zeolite derivatives. And again, Dr. J, when you get to him, he's going to talk a lot about this. And it's super important using a binder either from a food source or using a charcoal or something as a supplement is, I think, one of the most powerful, inexpensive ways to help your body get toxicants out. So mobilize, separate, mobilize, and then get them out with a binder. Remineralize, you talked about that. You know, when you sweat these things out, so you have to put them back in. The gemstones we touched on. Tourmaline was the stone that I found in China. That's the longevity stone. Rose granite, shungite. Shungite we use to remediate electromagnetic fields. That's basically a meteorite, and the good stuff comes from Russia. So we source our gemstones from all over the world. Castor oil pack, I've mentioned that earlier. We use a company called Premier Research Laboratories. They're organic oil, but Queen of Thrones, they make Dr. Marisol's products are really good too. And here's the mud packing. Again, I mentioned that earlier. Guided meditation. So I think we've talked a little bit about Ascot Gupta, his program. There's lots of great people out there, but his program is particularly good, his protocol. So that's something that I think your community will really resonate with.
And he'll be speaking at the summit.
Oh, he will
He'll
be
be before this one or after this one, but
well, that's fantastic. And how lucky, you know, I mean, it's really, he's just a jewel, and he's got so much to offer people, and his own journey. Like when you hear about his journey and how he came to find himself and to develop his program is really important. So this is the statements, right? These are the big ones. To dial up your reality, you must consciously and concretely change your narrative, right? So if we're still playing with yesterday's playbook and we're expecting the same result or a different result, then we're actually creating probably something that's a negative spin. We really have to think about what we can change, what we're able to change, and what we can change in our consciousness to then really concretely change our reality from a sustainable point of view. What we've talked about till now, the stacks, the hacks, the importance, I believe, of harnessing sun energy, understanding polarity, like the way the body energies work in order for us to have a systematic and a really united, fundamental, functional, integrated body. And that's vital. I think you really have to look at all of these natural things like air, water, food, sunlight, understand how important they are to your life, create a safe home where all those things are organized and are just working towards giving you and your family vital health. And then you're way more armored and ready to meet the challenges of what happens when you walk outside the threshold of your front door, right?
Yeah. You know, and this self-love topic we'll be covering, I hope, in a few of the presentations for the summit, but for sure in at least one main one. Dr. Amanda Brown will be speaking on, you know, how do we love ourselves going through this breast implant, you know, whether it's augmentation or reconstruction, and then having to have them removed. It's a challenge, and I think we need, right. This is like, you know, we talked at the very beginning, which brings us full circle, the emotional part of it. Like emotions are, you know, like self-love is a big emotion, and if it's not present, you know, there's a gap there. I couldn't hold a charge without the self-love.
Right, exactly.
And so I'm glad that you have this in here, because it's a big piece. And
yeah, it's a huge, yeah, and you know, we have a tendency, all of us, to discount all of the thinking and emotions that go into making a decision, like to get started, right? So now you have a whole community that bought into, for whatever reason, the importance of having the implant, right? And now they went through that whole emotional piece getting there. Now they have to unwind that thing, you know, and there's a whole bunch of emotions tied to that.
Yep.
And so it's a brilliant time to deal with all of these emotions right now, to understand that. And that's why I love my last statement here: notice what you notice. And
And be
I think,
compassionate when you look at that, right?
yeah. And be, you know, so grateful for the little things, because these little things add up to be the big things. And even in sauna, when we're coaching and teaching people, you know, they come to us and some people are super, super sick. And we the first thing we say is that sauna doesn't represent your ticket to health. It's about self-love. It's about abundance. It's about doing something for yourself that's going to keep you vital for yourself and for the people that love you and your family and your community. And so that you can find your bliss, fulfill your passions in life, and live your life as, I think, nature and our deliverer, you know, organize things to be the way that it was supposed to be, right?
Yep. And just to push it a little further, is we don't have to get self-love perfect, like 100% of the time a day. It's for me, it's the journey and coming back to it, and, you know, and looking at it and notice what I notice. Like that's actually a pretty powerful, like, notice what you notice, because then what do you do with that, right?
Exactly.
Who said something about don't judge it? I haven't been able to not judge it, but I can observe myself. I can notice myself doing the judging right now, and I don't know when the judgment will stop in my head about myself. But it'll maybe that's enlightenment. I don't know.
Yeah.
Terry,
so super cool.
Yeah, well,
super cool.
One of the things that I tell people all the time, and through this whole presentation, what I keep hearing is it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. So go slowly. Everything should be done slowly. Detox slowly, you know, introduce things to yourself slowly, and then love yourself slowly. I mean, it's not something that you have to do overnight.
Yeah, I love that. That's great. The part that's the hardest is when you're not feeling well, to think of it as a slow process, because you want to get better, particularly if you're chronic and you get some result from whatever intervention or whatever therapy you're doing. You want to keep doing it, and you probably do it till overdo it in a sense, because you get so excited about getting a result when you've been searching for so long. You know, so I think the key is just what you said, Terry, that you recognize that there's certain orders that you have to be realistic in your goals. You have to notice what you notice is all about what's happening inside your body too. Notice what your body's telling you. Like when you try something, it will tell you whether it's strong for you or weak for you. That's the whole basis in kinesiology, right? How's your muscle testing? How's your body responding to a nutrient or to a therapy? Same thing with just there better sleep or better cognition, or there are things that you can notice that are changing that will support the direction you're going in and the choices you make. And I guess putting it differently, if I was a stock market manager, if I was managing your portfolio, right? And I had 20 stocks and 3 of them were dogs and the other 17 were doing really great, I'd get rid of the dogs. Like the things that weren't working, I get rid of because they're just slowing me down. And then I would support the things that are working for me. And that culling process, that curating process is what is really what we call healing, right?
Yeah.
So dialing into understanding the way your body responds to protocols and what feels naturally, intuitively right for you and what doesn't. Like your role in your own healthcare is so important to heal completely.
Yeah.
And what we're here for, what I'm here for, is to develop devices and to try to impart these messages to the community out there to let you know that it is real. We can make changes. It doesn't have to be that expensive. And you can, and we all can do this. Okay. We all can do this. And so what order it takes for you would be different than me. The way your body responds will be different than mine. But tuning in and understanding that these elements are important for us to be healed and to maintain a sustainable life and vital life is really the key. And that's what we're going for. And we won't run out of time and energy to help all people that want to get onto our train. So that's it for the presentation. I'm sure you probably have more questions, but how did we do so far?
We did great. I say thank you, thank you, thank you. And just, everybody who's listening, for me, and I would love to put the presentation maybe as a link in your bio.
Okay.
So people can access it, because it's all foundational, right?
Yeah.
Like while some of the steps you may or may not need a practitioner, start with some of these. Start with nutrition. Make sure you're digesting, opening up the drainage pathways. Like go outside barefoot on the grass,
Right.
wake up in the morning, get some sunshine, on your face, on your skin. Like, don't stare right at the sun. That's not what I'm saying, but get outside, open the eyes in the morning, get outside in the evening, begin to reset your own hormone structure. Like this is foundation. This is 101 steps. You begin here, and then what do you need? And then what, right? And then hopefully the summit gives you a whole list of things that you can use to get well with, and or try, whether on your own or with another practitioner, right? You'll know when you need some guidance, right? You'll know when you need an additional safe space to be supported. And hopefully that's what the summit's about, is to provide the education and the resources to help people get well.
Right. And even my short list, which could be overwhelming, right? If you just take any of the components apart, like I'm not telling you, in some instances, I give you exact examples of things to look for in each category, but all of them are solutions. They're all affordable, and they're all things that each one of us could do. So, you may have good water systems in your house, so you don't have to necessarily address that, but someone else might say, well, I'm just using tap water. Well, maybe that's not the best for you. Maybe that's a root cause that's creating a little imbalance for you. So you can go out and get a simple system. It's just a starting reference point, but it is a little checklist that all of us can manage. And you don't have to do everything all at once. You can just do one little one at a time and just keep pecking away. And each thing that you do is going to have a big result ultimately. And so, there are sequencing, and there is some order that, you might want to take care of certain things first or second. But even if you just looked at the whole list and you just started going, okay, I can manage this, I can work with this one, not right now, but this one we'll do later on. It gives you a direction, and it also gives everybody a lot of hope and respect for your own body's ability to heal. And then it makes your practitioner life a little easier, because their stuff is going to start working better, and that's going to take that frustration away. And more importantly, you're just going to get back on your feet. And I think that that's really what everybody's searching for ultimately, particularly in today's world.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Robby, for spending time with us, and setting us on a good foundational track.
Very
Well,
educational.
my pleasure. And I'm glad we only had a half hour to talk today, because I usually need a little bit more time.
15 minutes just went by like that. Hold on a quick minute here.
Well, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. I really didn't expect to go through the PowerPoint like we did today, but that was fun. And I'm hoping to be much more involved in everything we can do for your community and help you guys with your project. And certainly let us know in any way that we can help serve you.
Thank you.